Happy Sunday. I'm Reverend Kathy McCall from Unity North Spiritual Center in Coon Rapids, Minnesota. So I welcome you to our Sunday lesson on June 7th, 2020. I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. And today we'll begin with our daily word, and then we'll follow that with the lesson. So I just invite you to take a minute and relax and close your eyes as we start with our word for the day. The word today is joy. Joy is my constant companion. I discover reasons to feel joyful every day, even in the most challenging circumstances. I begin by centering my awareness on the Christ, the divine presence within. I feel love and peace lift my heart, and possibilities for good fill my thoughts. I am joyous. I may experience joy as exuberance, delight, and wonder. Joy may also come quietly, as a peaceful assurance of God's presence wherever I am, whatever I'm doing. My awareness of joy brings a glow to even the most ordinary day. As I engage wholeheartedly in all that is mine to do today, I share my joy with everyone through kind words, a sunny smile, and a warm welcome to everyone I meet. I radiate joy and bless the world with my positivity, happiness, and bliss. And from Psalm 118:24, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. So we give thanks for the power of joy. We say, thank you, God, for joy. And so it is. Amen. So today's lesson is moving Providence. Many of us are committed, but what are we committed to is the question. A humorous story is told of a preacher who was committed to temperance. He was speaking about it, and with great passion he said, if I had all the beer in the world, I would take it and I'd pour it into the river. And with greater emphasis he said, and if I had all the wine in the world, I'd take it and I'd pour it into the river. And then finally, shaking his fist in the air, he said, and if I had all the whiskey in the world, I'd take it and I'd pour it into the river. Sermon complete, he sat down. The song leader stood very carefully and announced with a smile, for our closing song, let us sing hymn number 365, Shall We Gather at the River? Well, what are we committed to? I have performed many weddings since I've been in ministry, and I have had my share of crazy ones. I could have written a humorous book. But there is an interesting moment when the couple repeats their vows. Some are light years away due to nerves. Some are already on their honeymoon. Others are worried about their reception. And some are very obviously present in the moment. And why is that moment when they say, I do or I will, so profound? It can cause the most stalwart person to come unglued in tears or to tremble violently. It certainly caused me to cry sometimes while performing the ceremony. Well, that moment is a moment of the deepest commitment. But in reality, the inner commitment has already occurred before the ceremony ever took place. But there's something about speaking the commitment aloud. As W.H. Murray said, the moment one definitely commits oneself, then Providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. I looked up the word providence in the dictionary, and one definition said, God's care for humankind. Another was, God is the power sustaining and guiding human destiny. So when we commit, we move providence and impact our own destiny. In other words, we activate universal principle because we can say, I will. And commitment includes risk. It is taking a chance. It means letting go of the known and stepping out on faith into the unknown to reach for something we're not certain about, but which we believe is somehow an improvement. You know, Helen Keller, the woman who was blind and deaf, said, many persons have the wrong idea about what constitutes happiness. It is not attained through self-gratification, but through commitment to a worthy purpose. And there is always an element of risk. You know, we cannot grow without taking a risk. And actually, we take a leap of faith. We give up something without knowing if the next step will be any better. You know, when we grow, we give up an old way of seeing ourselves. Risking and commitment mean giving up false beliefs and destructive habits. To commit and take the risk, we let go of fear and a belief in limitation. So are you committed to your heart's desire in your own life and at your spiritual center, our church? Or perhaps you belong to a different church than Unity North, or another spiritual center in a different city or state if you're listening from far away. Are you committed? 3 visionaries did not know their limitation and therefore had none. Margaret Mead, anthropologist, did not know that a 25-year-old unaccompanied female should not be wandering alone around the jungles of New Guinea and Samoa. Margaret Thatcher did not bother to ask whether a female Prime Minister of Great Britain was acceptable to her constituency. Oprah Winfrey was not deterred that Phil Donahue owned the daytime talk show market. There are countless stories of risk and commitment. The entire Bible is filled with them. Whether they are fact or fiction is irrelevant. They still convey a truth. Noah took a risk getting into an ark with every imaginable animal, not to mention his family. How many of us would risk boarding ourselves up in an ark with our families? It might require great courage or insanity. But Noah made a commitment to follow God's will according to his guidance. Moses took a risk going into Egypt and confronting Pharaoh, and then leading the Israelites out of bondage and across the Red Sea. But he had a commitment to follow the guidance of God. Ruth took a risk to follow her mother-in-law Naomi into Bethlehem, land of the Hebrews, when she was a Moabite. But she was committed to love. Jesus took a risk to teach a new way, to speak with authority, to practice non-resistance, turning the other cheek. And his commitment was to the will of God, to be an instrument of love. And his apostles risked their lives in their commitment to the truth that he taught. You know, I can hardly say the word apostle anymore without thinking of the little girl who said, Jesus and his 12 opossums. Well, every Bible story is a metaphor for our own journey. And that spiritual journey means growth and change. So just like the Bible characters, we risk, we commit, and we change. And there are many other examples. Think of Siddhartha, who became the Buddha. He was so committed to seeking truth, he left the safety of his father's palace to wander in the world. And when he did reach enlightenment, he chose to come back and teach for another 50 years. Tremendous commitment and risk. Mahatma Gandhi said, "I claim to be no more than an average man with below average capabilities. I have not the shadow of a doubt that any man or woman can achieve what I have if he or she would put forth the same effort and commitment and cultivate the same hope and faith." The psychiatrist Dr. David Viscott, in his book Risking, uses the metaphor of passing in an automobile to illustrate the process of risk and commitment. He said, "Passing is the most dangerous moment in driving when most fatalities occur. The driver most likely to be killed is the one who hesitates, loses his nerve, and can neither accelerate nor apply his brakes. He cannot follow through on a commitment to act." Well, the stages of passing are first, recognizing the need to risk and deciding to do so. Second, making a commitment to take a chance. Third, reaching the point of no return, and finally, completing the risk. Viscott goes on to say that whether we seek a promotion, to advance our career, start a new business, try to win the affection of someone we care for, get a divorce, tell someone off, leave a loved one, break an addiction, or if we want to do anything else in life that implies getting ahead or growing, we are in a passing situation. Sometimes the obstacle we're trying to overcome is another person. Sometimes it's a set of social conventions. Sometimes it's a challenge like a pandemic. Or maybe it's a remodel gone wrong, or the influence of others, or our own expectations. It is said, if you want to find some experts, start to do something in 10 minutes. People will come from all around the world to tell you it cannot be done. So we can end up telling ourselves the same thing. But sometimes we don't. Robert Benchley said, "It took me 15 years to discover I had no talent for writing, but I couldn't give it up because by then I was too famous." So he made it through the passing stage. Passing is always a risk, which requires commitment. So we recognize our need to risk, and we decide to do so. We make a commitment to take a chance, and then we move to a point of no return, and then complete the risk. Then Providence takes over. We make a commitment, and then all sorts of things occur to help and to let us know we're on the right track. And I know each one of you can identify. We've all been through commitment and the change that results. But how do we get to the point of making this commitment? Scott Peck in The Road Less Traveled said, "Commitment is the foundation, the bedrock of any living relationship. When people cannot commit, sometimes it can be because their parents failed to commit themselves to them as children in a meaningful way. Perhaps they've been hurt from past commitment. So sometimes we're overcoming a fear of commitment. We have the capacity within us to develop unlimited potential as we commit to our spiritual growth. This can be a fantastic starting point. And what about a commitment to abundance and prosperity as well? This refers to more than money, to spiritual and physical well-being. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, co-founders of Unity, made a commitment to their spiritual growth. to God and to silent unity, their prayer ministry, and we see the results today, an entire spiritual movement of love and peace and truth throughout the world. And I ask you, what are you willing to commit to? What about your heart's desire for yourself, for your spiritual community, for your world? And are you willing to fully commit to your spiritual enlightenment and risk the change that brings? In the process of spiritual growth, we may commit to a goal, a vision which means a leap of faith. The Fillmores had a vision of a center where universal truths could be taught and studied, a place where people could come for healing. It was a vision of a new way. Well, children were asked how we can get people up off their couches to go out and make the world a better place. 10-year-old Micah said, "Put spikes on all the couches." 9-year-old Ben said, "Run a commercial that says, if you don't turn off your TV, we will cancel all TV shows." Well, that'd do it, wouldn't it? Well, Bash, age 10, said, "Have a huge speaker that puts people in a trance to fix the world." 10-year-old Julia said, "Start doing something yourself or get someone who a lot of people like to start something." Not bad. And finally, Emily said, "You should have to clean up for a year every 10 years that you live." Wow. Children are our future, that is for certain. We need their genius, their brilliance. Well, what is your vision of your upcoming new adventure during this time of pandemic? Because when it is clear and you make your commitment, my bet is that Providence is going to move. One volunteer taking a risk at her Presbyterian church agreed to type the church bulletin. But over time, she created from some proverbial bloopers with grammatical and typing errors. And these have been around for a while, but they're always fun to hear. In the bulletin announcements, it is said, "Potluck supper Sunday at 5 p.m., prayer and medication to follow." The ladies of the church have cast off clothing of every kind. They may be seen in the basement on Friday afternoon. Well, this evening at 7 p.m., there will be a hymn sing-along in the park across from the church. Bring a blanket and come prepared to sin. Well, the minister would appreciate it if the ladies of the congregation would lend him their electric girdles for the pancake breakfast next Sunday morning. You know, we don't have to be perfect. If there's a commitment we want to make in any area of our life that we've been hurt in risking in the past, chances are we're gun shy. It's like pulling out to pass and getting hit. We may not be anxious to do it again. And this applies to anything or anyone we may have committed to. But we can go through our lives half in and half out. And we get as much out of something as we put into it. That is the universal law of giving and receiving. There is the most incredible story of one man who took an amazing risk and made a commitment which forever changed his life. His name was Lakeson Kayira. And at age 17, in October of 1958, he began a journey with a 5-day supply of food, a small axe, a blanket, and his 2 treasured books, a Bible and the Pilgrim's Progress. He was going to walk from a small tribal village north across the wilderness of East Africa to Cairo, where he would board a ship to America to get a college education. What a dream. His parents were illiterate and didn't really know where America was, but reluctantly gave their blessing to his journey. Lakeson, for many years, had used his poverty as an excuse until he discovered Abraham Lincoln and Booker T. Washington in books provided by missionaries. So he conceived his vision to serve humankind and make a difference in the world. Forget that he didn't have a penny to his name or a way to pay for his ship fare. Forget that he had no idea what college he would attend or even if he would be accepted. Forget that Cairo was 3,000 miles away, and in between were hundreds of tribes that spoke more than 50 different languages, none of which Lakeson knew. He had to forget all of that. All but his dream and his commitment. And after 5 full days of trekking across Africa, he had covered only 25 miles and was already out of food and money. But he had this commitment. Sometimes he walked alone or with strangers. Once a fever struck him and he fell gravely ill. But strangers nursed him back to health. 15 months after he began his journey, he had crossed to the capital of Uganda. He spent 6 months working and spent every spare moment in the library. He found a directory of American colleges, and Skagit Valley College in Mount Vernon, Washington, caught his eye. So he wrote to the school's dean and asked for a scholarship. And he wrote to others, but it was unnecessary. The dean at Skagit was so impressed, he not only granted him admission, but offered him a scholarship and a job that would pay his room and board. But he had to get round-trip fare to get a passport. So he wrote to missionaries, and they helped to push his passport. He spent the last of his savings, on a pair of shoes, so he would not have to walk through the door of the college barefoot. By the time he reached Cairo, exhausted and penniless, his legend had spread, and the students of Skagit Valley College, with the help of local citizens, sent $650 to cover his fare to America. Again, this was in the 50s. So that was a lot of money. When he walked through the school's doorway, he fell to his knees in joy and gratitude. But he didn't stop there. He became a professor of political science at Cambridge University and a widely respected author. He made a difference in the world and became a beacon of light, whose light remains as a guide for others to follow. A very moving story. You know, we might ask, how long do we have to commit? Whatever it is, the important thing is that when we take a risk for change and we do commit, that we do it 100%. Then there can be no regrets. When we say those words, I do, or I will, we are not half in and half out, not deciding whether to accelerate or not. Give it your all. Be the best that you can be. Cynthia Kersey said, the greatest natural resource in the world is not in the earth's waters or minerals, nor in the forests or grasslands. It is in the spirit that resides in every unstoppable person. And the spirit of the individual benefits us all. So, take a risk. Make a commitment. Say, I will. And then step on the gas with all you've got. And you will find that you are moving Providence, God's will for good in all of our lives. And you will make a difference. God bless you. Have a wonderful week.